With the recent emergence of the androids, the Z-Fighters were in for a rude awakening, seeing that Raditz is a part of Zero's plan to take over the world. The altered events in history allow for Cell to reach his perfect form, basically uncontested. And with the official announcement of the Cell games, we head into the 2-week long training sessions for all the participants before they confront Cell and figure out what to do with Raditz. Will the Z-Fighters still be able to overcome this threat with perfect Cell? How will they deal with Raditz? We'll get into that in this part, starting from the announcements of the Cell games. Cell tells Raditz he better train if he's attending the up-and-coming tournament, as he currently wouldn't stand a chance against him in the slightest. With his newfound ability to sense ki, Raditz realizes that Cell isn't lying, believing that if he really wanted to, he could have just killed him right off the bat. Confused, Raditz asks Cell why have a tournament when he could just kill everyone and easily destroy the planet if he wanted. Cell then pauses for a second, continuing saying he's finally obtained his perfect form, so it's only natural that he would want people suitable enough for him to train to test his powers against. Clearly showing how strong the Saiyan cells in him are, becoming just as battle hungry as the pure-blooded Saiyan. Besides, he was made using the DNA of some of the most powerful fighters in the universe. It's literally in his DNA to want to fight. Finally done explaining himself, Cell bids a farewell to Raditz as he flies off to finally ready to start the construction for the Cell Games arena, with Cell thinking of ways to make the tournament much more interesting. Finally alone, Raditz thinks about what to do next, realizing that he's never really trained before. When he was with Vegeta and Nappa on missions, he would usually get beaten pretty badly by enemies and just thrown into the healing chamber to exploit Zenkais. Realizing this is going to be a completely new experience with him training by himself, he decides to head back to Jiro's lab to see if there's anything he could use there to help him out with his training. Fast forwarding a few hours, we see Raditz arriving at the destroyed remains of the lab, as he looks around for a bit looking for anything salvageable for him to use. Now personally, I think I always got the vibe that Raditz was the more tech-savvy one of the group in Vegeta's Saiyan squad. He, of course, was the weakest, but I never really got the vibe that either Nappa or Vegeta were that into using technology. Of course, I don't think Raditz was like some sort of secret scientist or some secret genius or anything, but I do think he would have picked up a few things here and there from his time in the Frieza Force and him as a child. So he wouldn't know how to do like the run-of-the-mill repairs and maybe some reprogramming. With the foraging done, Raditz has managed to find the secret underground part of the lab that managed to stay mostly intact from the explosion from 17 and 18 a couple of days ago. With the Z-Fighters being more focused on the addition of Raditz in the early arrival of Cell, the lab wasn't searched completely and destroyed like Trunks and Krillin did in canon. Making his way down to the lab, Raditz runs into Project Cell with him destroying it, preventing the birth of Cell in his timeline. Not only did he find the Project Cell there, he found another pod with the numbers 21 above it, still being in process of being programmed by the Red Ribbon Army supercomputer. He walks up to the computer with it greeting him, understanding that Jiro's plan seemed to have failed, and another android seemed to be running rampant around from another timeline. Raditz is confused on how the computer knows so much until it realizes that it's been still watching and observing everything that's been going on. The appearance of the time traveler and the bio-android Cell that also travel from another timeline. With Jiro gone, the supercomputer started to continue the plan that Jiro had with making Android 21 as a last-ditch effort, but as it stands now, it might not even be enough to deal with all these threats out there now. That's when the computer looks to Raditz to take the mantle of the leader of the Red Ribbon Army and carry out the revenge of Son Goku, but Raditz declines, saying he really doesn't care much about the army. This angers the computer, prompting a swift key blast from Raditz, destroying a good majority of the computer circuits, halting the programming from 21, prematurely awakening her. She exits the pod looking around until her eyes finally land on the figure right in front of her, Raditz, with recognition slowly making its way around the room into both their eyes. Raditz realizes that he's met this woman before. She, along with the weird Dr. Zero, were one of the people to save his life before, but she disappeared pretty quickly. With some explanations from both sides, we learned that 21 actually was initially married to Dr. Zero and was a partner to a lot of Zero's experiments until he got so caught up in his work that he eventually started to convert real-life people into androids. Apparently, they had a huge disagreement about this, leading to Jiro eventually using one of his androids to blindside 21 while she was getting ready to leave. Eventually, she was converted into an android as backup by her own husband, no less. And with that last bit of info from Raditz, she understands that the androids were of course a horrible idea, seeing he was killed by the very things he created. She thanks Raditz for stopping the computer for reprogramming her against our will, giving him a kiss on the cheek. We cut back over to Kami's lookout with Vegeta and Trunks disappointed in themselves for how they went out against Cell and Raditz. Even with the extra year of training, he's barely managed to catch up to Raditz, but he still couldn't beat him because of his limitless stamina. He decides he might have to go back into the room of spirit and time for another year to finally overcome that problem. And right on cue, Goku and Gohan exit the room of spirit and time in grade 4 Super Saiyan, just like they did in canon. He still believes that Gohan has what it takes to defeat Cell, but he has no idea about what they should do with Raditz, thinking he still might be redeemable since he hasn't really killed anyone yet. He still shows off some of his power to Korin, being about 75% stronger than he was in canon, but still not strong enough to take down Cell, leading to Vegeta wanting to return back into the room himself, still not fully understanding why he's not getting much stronger. Over the next week, things still play out pretty similarly to how they do in canon. Dende is brought to Earth as a new guardian of Earth, and everyone besides Vegeta rests for the up-and-coming tournament. While he tortures himself in the room of spirit and time to try to brute force the mastering of Super Saiyan, we cut back over to Raditz and Toon rebuilding the lab, free of the influence of Dr. Zero. Raditz prepares to meet the Z Fighters in Cell at the Cell Games after some preparations made by him in 21. He's managed to get some training in here and there over the past few weeks, so it means he wasn't just sitting around in the lab all day. Eventually, 2 days before the Cell Games, Raditz visits Kakarot, remembering his key signature from when he showed off the little bit at Korin's tower to measure himself against Cell. Feeling the disturbance in the area, Goku and Gohan both run outside, coming face to face with Raditz once again. With Raditz provoking Goku into fighting him, saying he's finally going to get his revenge. Realizing he's got no way to talk Raditz out of this fight, he tells him he'll fight him, but he just wants him to take this away from their home, flying away to a nearby clearing with Raditz and Gohan following close by. They land facing each other, not saying a word, ready to let their fists do all the talking for them, before charging at each other. Initially, it's about even, with Raditz starting to ramp up pretty fast, reaching his peak, while Goku stays calm and collected, blocking all of his attacks with little to mid difficulty. Very quickly, we already see there's a pretty decent sized power gap here in Goku's favor, who's only using about 15% of his full power. But he's mostly playing on the defensive, still slipping in a few attacks here and there, chipping away at Raditz slowly. That's when Goku starts to ramp it up at a steady pace, making the power gap grow bigger and bigger between the two by the second, until he eventually reaches about 25% of his power, making this fight even more one-sided. Raditz can't really believe it, but it seems the roles have been reversed from the first fight. He's being bullied pretty badly, and even with his android upgrades, it still seems like Kakarot is still just better than he is as a fighter. A few more exchanges later, Raditz gets clipped by a pretty strong hook from Goku, knocking him on his ass. Just looking at the conditions of both fighters, Goku is barely scratched, meanwhile Raditz looks like he's been hit by a truck. For the second time, he's been defeated by his brother, instilling even more rage in him. So much so that he explodes into Super Saiyan for a few seconds, terrifying Goku and Gohan before he drops back out of it due to the amount of damage he sustained. He curses Kakarot once again before flying off back towards the lab. He will be back here to kill him again. Well, he will be back again to kill him. With a look of shock on their faces, Goku and Gohan realize that Raditz is still a threat to be taken very seriously, especially after what they just saw. We fast forward to the start of the tournament, in which the rules have been changed here. Instead of being a 1v Cell tournament, Cell has created Cell Juniors to fight against all the Z Fighters in a team versus team brawl match. Raditz makes his appearance with a small Zenkai boost from the fight against Goku, with it actually putting Super Saiyan Raditz slightly above Master Super Saiyan Goku here. As the Cell games begin, we see Goku and Raditz immediately charge at Cell, with him taking them both on with high to extreme difficulty, but we can't really say the same for some of the Z Fighters here. The Cell Juniors are ragdolling the human fighters, and they're straight up just toying with Piccolo. The only ones that are kind of holding their own here is Vegeta and Trunks. Gohan, on the other hand, is putting belt to ass to the Cell Juniors he's fighting, which would be a good thing if there was only one of them he was fighting. After eliminating Krillin from the tournament by just knocking him unconscious, another Cell Junior snuck his ass, turning the tides of the battle for the worse. Even with all their newfound strength, the Saiyans just don't stand much of a chance here, so people started to fall in battle. First Tien, then Krillin, then Yamcha. They're just dropping like flies. After they took out their fighter, they joined the other fight against the other Z Fighters, making it a snowball effect. Unfortunately, the next person to die is the ore farming goat Piccolo, and it's ironic because the way he's died is the same way he died in the Saiyan Saga, protecting Gohan from a combined blast from the Cell Juniors. With Piccolo's tragic death right in front of Gohan, this causes an insane reaction. Gohan erupts into Super Saiyan 2, and all the fighting in the tournament ceases. Gohan then blinks around the tournament arena, turning all the Cell Juniors into skid marks with singular attacks, then appearing behind Cell, kicking him so hard in the spine he splits him in two. Knowing he's not dead from that attack, he puts both of his hands to his sides, charging up a massive blast, and before Cell can regenerate, he swings both his arms forward, shouting Hellzone Grenade, releasing such a blast that looking at it from space makes the final flash look like a regular ki blast. With Cell dealt with, he looks over at Raditz, but before Gohan could attack him, Goku asks Gohan to stop, saying that Raditz is his to deal with, so just stand down for now. Gohan looks over at his father in anger for a few seconds before he starts to calm down, starting to break down about not being able to save Piccolo once again, dropping to his base form. Goku walks over, putting his hand on his shoulder, saying that he did all he can, and that's all that matters. Piccolo will be proud at what he's done today. Goku shoots a look at Raditz before flying off with Gohan to revive everyone with the Dragon Balls, with Raditz still in shock from what he just witnessed. Of course, since Cell is gone, Vegeta tried to get his rematch. He immediately challenges Raditz again to another fight, which he of course gets his ass whooped. Vegeta still hasn't even caught up to Goku in strength. Fast forwarding a few days, everyone has been revived by the Dragon Balls, and Raditz meets Goku out in the same field they fought in before Cell. With serious looks on their faces, they get into a fighting stance once again, ready to throw down once more. With that, we end this part off here with Goku and Raditz going head to head once again. What do you guys think about this part? What direction do you think Raditz's character will go in the future? Comment your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. Catch y'all next time. Peace.